Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have my meditation books with me right here, and I'm going to read these, and then I'm going to go and get my coffee for the day and go hang out by the pool and listen to my audiobook for a little bit. So, let's get into today's meditations. I'm feeling the Melody Beatty Journey to the Heart book. So, let's start with that. Today is July 27th. Let's see what it has to say to us today. Okay. July 27th. Be vulnerable with yourself. As we go through our days, we meet many people. We learn it's safe to be vulnerable with some, not so safe or wise to be vulnerable with others. But there is one person it's always safe to be vulnerable with, yourself. Share your deepest secrets with yourself. Whether you rise early in the morning and write your thoughts in a journal, or take a few moments throughout the day to bring your deepest secrets to consciousness, you need to be clear, straight, and honest with yourself. Harboring secrets, ducking, dodging, and hiding from the truth will slow you down. It will block the pathway to your heart. It can even stop you cold if you get enough secrets tucked away. Take time each day to recognize what you think, what you feel. You don't have to act. The sheer acts of recognition, honesty, and acceptance are all that are necessary to keep you moving, growing, and going forward. The sheer acts of recognition, honesty, and acceptance are all that are necessary to keep you moving, growing, going forward. Be as vulnerable as you safely can with those you meet along the way, but always be vulnerable with yourself. I love this meditation, and I think, when it gets into talking about like the secrets and stuff like that, I think what it's really talking about is don't lie to yourself, and really about don't lie to yourself about the well-being of your situation, if that makes sense, or the well-being of yourself. There have been many points in my life where I have just lied to myself about how I was doing, and I was not doing okay at all. And, but I would get up every day, and I think for others, as much as for myself, I would slap a smile on my face, and I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm good, how are you? I'm fine, I'm good. And I wasn't. I was dying inside, And I talked so much on here about my marriage, and I really went into depth the other night talking about it on my vlog, about the years, like before I went back into the rooms of recovery, or came back into the rooms of recovery, and our marriage was just horrible. And I didn't even really want to fight for our marriage anymore. I just really didn't, which is so crazy to me when I look back on it, that the thing that almost tore us apart, like my resistance going to counseling, my not wanting to save the marriage, all of that, which ended up getting us into counseling, is the thing that made our marriage so fantastic today. It's just like, blessings in disguise. But at that time, I was talking about this, I would come home and I would just sit on the front porch, even in the dead of winter. I mean, it was like November, and I was sitting out there in like a coat. I remember my husband came out, and I would just play solitaire on my phone, just for hours. And Alex came out there at one point, and he said, what can I do? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I can't continue to live like day in and day out. Like, you just are so sad to me, and I can't figure out like what to do to fix it. And I was like, there's nothing you can do to fix it. And he was like, well, we've got to do something, because I can't continue to live like this, And then even when I got sober and I started going to meetings a lot, I'm laughing because I heard this lead, and I'm a believer that God puts things in my life at the time that I need to hear them, And I was going to meetings every single day, and my friend that says to me, if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. I would see her every single day, and she'd say, how are you doing? I'd be like, I'm good, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. And I wasn't, I was going to meetings, and at first, and I was coming home, and I was lonely, and I came back in and started shaking people's hands and meeting people right away, because I had heard this lead, somebody tells their story, that said it's hard to fall off the wagon when you're sitting in the middle of it, and that was the one thing that I had never done. I had never done a lot of service work, or introduced myself to people, or really worked with others, and I really just didn't know a lot of people in the program of recovery, And so I really made it a point to get to know people when I came back in. But then I would go home, and it was like, it was like the Janis Joplin saying that, like she used to say, I make love to 30,000 people on stage, and then I go home all alone. it was like, I would go to my meeting and then I would hang out with all these people afterwards, and, then I would come home, and I was doing that twice a day, and then I would come home and I just was like this deep sense of loneliness that I had, and I wasn't reaching out to people, and I wasn't like calling people up and hanging, wanting to hang out and all that kind of stuff, and my husband was working, and he was part of this like dance thing at the time, and he was very, very busy, and so it just was bad. It was, and I just, inside, I felt like I was dying. And I heard this lead, and this woman said exactly what I was going through. She said that every day this woman would ask her, like, how are you doing? And she said she would look at her and she'd say, I'm good, I'm fine. And then one day she went to the meeting, and the woman said to her, how are you doing? And she didn't know what it was that day, but she looked at her and she said, I'm not doing okay. Like, I'm really not doing okay. And that day was the day that everything started for her. And I remember hearing that lead. And then I went to the meeting the next day and I saw my friend. And it was like just this inspiration that I needed enough, And she said to me, how are you doing? Like she did every other day. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not doing okay. And I remember she took me aside and we talked for a long time, And it didn't change things overnight. It really didn't, But I started like asking people to hang out, and I started like calling friends of mine, and I started making new friends, that I started hanging out with. And I got really active in recovery, and it really just saved my life. And it was just like being able to be so honest with myself finally like saved my butt, Being able to like just be so honest with myself finally, about how I felt inside. I don't know, and it was like she'd been asking every day. I remember like, and I know a lot of people have different feelings about this show, but I remember watching 13 Reasons Why, and the one kid in the show said a line to the effect of, he felt like he could walk down the halls every day at school and not one person would ever see him, right? And he's talking about Clay in the show, and he said Clay was one person that when he walked through the halls of the school, he saw me, and he like said hi to me, like he saw me, like as a person, And I felt like I was walking through my days and nobody saw me, I felt like, in all honesty, like it wouldn't, like I knew my husband loved me, I knew my family loved me, all that stuff, right? Like that's all fine and great, right? But other than that, like, and I'm not saying that to take that for granted, I'm not. Like I did take it for granted at that time, I don't anymore. But like, at that time, I felt like it didn't matter if I even showed up because nobody cared. Like it didn't matter like if I came to the meeting or if I said hi to anybody or if I even went to the meeting or if I mean, it didn't seem like, if I did this or if I did that, nothing mattered. It seemed like because I didn't really feel like I mattered. And I had bought into the lie of all of these years. And that was when I really started working with a sponsor again, and saying these things. And today, like, I'll call it my sponsor and I'll be like, I'm really down today. And she'll say, well, what's going on, And I'll say, I don't know. Like, I got these thoughts in my head that are just weighing heavy on me. Well, what thoughts, Well, I don't know that, like, I don't want to go to this because I'm too heavy. And if I go, people laugh at me or, they'll be looking at me and whatever. And we talk through these things today. That's just one example, okay? It's my body image issues. It can be anything from that, And we talk through them today. And I tell on myself to the point that then I want to be around people, right? See, because I don't want to be alone. Like, that's the reality is I don't want to be alone. But I had to start being honest with myself. And I had to allow myself to be vulnerable, to tell on myself to myself. And I hope that those of you out there, if there's anybody out there that's watching this and you're saying to yourself, like, God, I really relate to this, but I don't have anybody to tell you. There's somebody out there that asks you on a daily basis or a regular basis, how are you doing? You don't think they care. They care because they're asking. If they didn't care, they wouldn't ask. Trust me. That's the thing I had to find out. I'm not a burden to people, okay? People that want me in their life, they want me there for a reason. They ask me how I'm doing because they care and because they love me. And I had to realize that I was lovable enough for people to love me. I had to realize that, right? But it takes some work and it takes some time, And I had to allow myself to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm not doing okay. And that's okay, Today, I might have 6 days, 16 days of greatness in a row where every day I wake up and I'm like, woo! And then I might wake up and have that one day That's just not good, okay? Now, add on top of that, and I struggle from addiction issues, but add on top of that people that struggle with serious mental health issues like depression and anxiety and things like that, right? Like, imagine how much harder it must be for them as well. So, you know, I mean, I think getting honest with ourselves and being willing to allow somebody to help us and be there for us is really a huge step. So, anyway, that was a great meditation. I really liked that today. And cried a little bit. Felt a little emotion come out. That was good. I like that. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a magically amazing day. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.